It's been a pretty long time since I last went to 4chan. I'm not exactly sure how long. I know it had already been a few months by the time I posted the waifu video, and that was 2.5 years ago, so it's probably been about 3 years. Now, before I go on, I should make absolutely clear that I don't think 4chan is entirely bad. And even now, I still probably much rather waste an afternoon on there than on fucking BuzzFeed or 9gag or epic meme poop fucking meme stolen comic shitvortex.com or whatever.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Jesus Christ, Mary and Joseph. Well, let me just say, first of all, I love the beginning. I love that intro music, and I love the instrumental in the background. I decided to do something similar myself because, you know, God forbid if my amazing voice didn't grace your ears with a little bit of music in the background, you know, can't have that. Now, first of all, let me just say that I find it hilarious that he actually has to point out the last time he frequented 4chan. Is there someone... First of all, I don't really care at all, but this guy actually pissed me off a bit just because of the fact that he took himself so seriously. Not even an ounce of irony in his voice. Everything. He was literally... He really thought this was a good idea, and he thought he was going to be, like, super intelligent, be analytical. Like, alright, let me get down a pad and paper and write points down. Let me get my thesis. Okay, the thesis is I'm leaving 4chan. Why am I leaving 4chan? Oh, let me think. Well, before I say that, I better tell you that I left. That's like... And you know what's funny? He goes into, after he says I left and I've been gone for 3 years, he has to go into contextualizing and saying that, you know, I'm better for leaving 4chan, but let's just say 4chan is horrible, but 9gag and BuzzFeed is even worse because it's a shitty website with shitty people, and I would much rather go to 4chan than those shitty websites. That's like me telling you, yo, the last time I've been to McDonald's was like 2 years ago, okay? But you know what? I'll tell you right now, I would go to McDonald's in a heartbeat over Wendy's or Burger King because, look at that, I'm boring myself. Who cares? I don't. And second of all, let me just say, I find it hilarious that this guy actually finds that people who go to certain websites are somehow better than other people. The fact that someone goes to 9gag or someone goes to BuzzFeed or someone goes to 4chan is somehow a factor in determining a person's morality or determining a person's personality or self-worth, which is hilarious because, honestly, I've never given a fuck about that. Why would you care? That's like finding out someone watches a TV show you don't really like, all of a sudden you're better than them. That's literally, that's people who watch shows like The Jersey Shore or The Kardashians. They watch that and they go, oh, I'm so much better than these people. Because that's the only reason shows like that exist, is for you to sit back and say, oh, thank God I'm not them. Thank God I'm so smart, so intelligent. I actually graduated high school. I was valedictorian. Did you do that? Please. So let me just say, the first 2 points he's made, the first one is that I'm so amazing that I left 4chan. And the second point was that 4chan is shit, but at least it's better than these websites. So this just shows how self-important this guy is and how self-righteous he is. And the fact that he actually takes pride in leaving 4chan and he takes pride in the websites he frequents, as if that fucking somehow it shows how meritorious someone is. So that's the first 2 quote-unquote points he makes. So let me get to the next thing he says.
An open and frank discussion about why I left and why, in my extremely arrogant opinion, you should probably do the same.
God damn, more self-importance. I think people on C-SPAN actually are more lighthearted and have a more jovial tone than this guy. I can't believe this guy takes himself that seriously, that his opinion is a fact. Like God came to him in a dream and now he's preaching the word of the Lord. This isn't simply an opinion. This is truth. This is a fact. And I also love the fact that he says, in my arrogant opinion, I left 4chan and so should you. Just because he said I'm arrogant and that was supposed to be a self-deprecating thing doesn't mean that he's not arrogant. He's an arrogant asshole. He's trying to tell people, I stopped doing it, you should stop doing it. He's chastising you and saying that you should do everything that he does, or at least following what he did in this certain situation. I mean, I can't believe that this guy really is that... I feel like this guy's a method actor, and he's just going to pop out one day and say, well, all those videos, yeah, that was bullshit. I'm not really that much of an asshole. But Right now, I'm under the impression, a hard as hell impression, that this guy really does take himself that seriously, and this guy really does think what he's saying is gospel. And you know what? That shit is sad and funny at the same time, because this motherfucker thinks that people should stop browsing 4chan and follow what he does. So that's another little piece of how self-important this guy is.
So where do we begin? There are really so many different interconnected angles to this that it's hard to know where exactly to pull the thread. We can start with a purely pragmatic concern, which would be efficiency. First, let's ask, why do you go to 4chan? What do you get out of it? Maybe you want humor, maybe you want to see what the latest news on something is, maybe you want to get some nice artwork or a wallpaper, or maybe you want to go to D and dig up some pictures of Mario fucking Yoshi in the butt and then transforming into a pool table. Whatever, it could be anything. But whatever it is you want, you know that there are way more efficient delivery systems for whatever that thing that you want is. For example, I like pictures of anime girls. On 4chan, I would have to wade through an ocean of crap to get to what I want, or make a thread myself and wait around for people to come and post. Even with 4chanx, or the Firefox extension on, with tons and tons of filters, you're still inevitably going to see a ton of shit that you're indifferent to at best, and that will annoy and distract you at worst. There is absolutely no escaping it. For one thing that I remember, it's really, really easy for someone to derail a discussion, even if you can't actually see the individual post.
Does this nigga really think he made a valid point? I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if this guy knows, but you can actually have multiple websites open at the same time. Like, usually I'll have 4chan open, maybe I'll have YouTube open, maybe Google, maybe I'll have Hotmail open just to check my emails. I mean, there is something called a new tab where you can click it and then put in a URL to a website, and then you could see multiple websites at the same time. I don't understand how you had to leave. Okay, let me say, you stopped frequenting that website, because let's be honest, when were you ever a part of that website? Calm down, okay? You just stopped going there. Why do you have to leave it in order to use Tumblr or use something else? That's like, I have to leave 4chan now because I need to use Google to find something. And another thing is, this guy, first of all, we already know he's self-important, okay? He's so self-important that he has to point out how amazing he is and how others should follow him. And that when he goes to 4chan, he can't believe it. He's astonished when he submits his own posts and submissions, which I'm sure are just the most interesting thing. Because who doesn't like to look at anime girls all day? And by the way, for those of you who don't know what anime is, it's Japanese cartoons. That's all it is. I mean, you know, some people don't like speaking English because, you know, the Japanese culture is a superior culture. And that, you know, you don't want to say Japanese cartoons, but let's leave that alone. My point is, if you want to use 4chan, you can use it. If you want to use Tumblr, you could use it. If you want to use Tumblr and 4chan, you could do both. You don't have to leave one to use the other. Why do you think you can only have one and only one? I don't understand why he thinks this is an actual valid point. It's a moot point. It's stupid. It makes no sense. I can go on multiple websites at the same time. It really is dumb. But you know what? Who am I to question a god? So let me see what else this nigga says.
Anyway, obviously, the real use for a message board, what you're really supposed to get out of it, is to socialize and make connections with people. That is the primary function of a message board of any kind. But because almost everyone on 4chan is anonymous, that doesn't really happen there. Even if you happen to have a great conversation with somebody who really seems to share your taste or your sense of humor, in all likelihood, you'll never be friends with that person or learn anything about them. You'll remain just as separate from each other as you were the day before.
How's that even towards your argument? How's that even an argument? That's just an opinion. Your opinion is that you don't like anonymous chatting or anonymous talking, and that you want it to develop into some type of friendship. That doesn't always have to be the case. I mean, I know you think your word is the end-all and be-all and that your opinion is fact, but there's such a thing as just talking to people and having a good time without becoming friends with them. I mean, this isn't something that has only existed on 4chan or even on the internet. There's been multiple times where I've hung out with people or I've just said hello to people, and I don't have to ask for their phone number or ask to hang out with them. I mean, there's certain instances where I go to places and I know certain faces, I know certain people, and I'm friendly with them, but I'm not really friends. Or even there's been times where I've gone to New York City and I've just conversated with people. I had a good time, but it never developed into a friendship. It was just then and there. I mean, by your logic, every one night stand should turn into a marriage. You know what I mean? So I think your opinion's an opinion. That's all it is. And that, to be honest, there's multiple websites where you can find people, talk to them, and then kindle some type of friendship. You can go to Facebook, you can go to Tumblr, you can go to any website that has a username. And to be honest, I think this is kind of a weak point because not that many people talk to someone and make friends on other websites. Every time I've gone to Tumblr or I've gone to other websites like it, it's usually people making comments and trying to be funny, and it's less of a conversation and more so of who can say a reference or a quote-unquote joke in the comment section. I mean, to be honest, I think 4chan has a lot more of a fluid conversation with people, just because because you don't know another person, you're more honest and you're more open to discussion, whereas other places you have a username and you've got to uphold it, and people might judge you based on whatever amount of points you have on your account. Who cares? Like I said, on the internet and in the real world, there is something called anonymous talking or anonymous conversations, and I think your opinion doesn't really help your argument.
I also think it's largely for this reason that 4chan tends to attract people with low self-esteem, underachievers, cynics, the chronically unemployed, social avoidant people, and others in that sort of same vein. People with an overriding sense of futility in their lives, who feel worthless as individuals, who feel like nothing that they do matters or makes a difference. People like that are going to be much more likely to want to sort of subsume their individual identity in a larger group. It gives them a sense of belonging and purpose that they otherwise wouldn't have. Plus, having no identity or means to truly connect with other people is appealing to people like that because it acts as a shield from rejection. It's like what I talked about in the waifuism video, how they build these psychological walls that are meant to keep bad stuff out, but in reality just keep them and their own selves locked in.
God damn. Like I said, this guy's opinion is fact. I love it when people make up shit and say it as if it's fact. First of all, he's saying that a large majority of people who use 4chan are people with low self-esteem. They're, social rejects, chronically unemployed, and just the worst of the worst. Well, first of all, I'm not one of those people, and I don't think a lot of people are. I think you're really over-exaggerating this and trying to say basically what you're doing, you're pulling statistics out of your ass. I love when people do this. Well, the majority of people, more than 80%, how do you know? You did studies, motherfucker, where you sat there with a pen and paper? I mean, I've seen a lot of submissions where people are, sad and depressed, like, I just lost my girlfriend, please try to make me feel better. But I've also seen a lot of posts where people said, I just got a raise at my job, motherfucker, what you doing with your life? There's a lot of people on that website, and there's a lot of different people. And you know what? Even if there were people with low self-esteem and people who are, first of all, he said chronically unemployed. I mean, shit, man, you can't be judging people. I don't know if someone's unemployed because they're a poor worker or someone's unemployed because of their luck or the economy. And say 4chan was full of people with low self-esteem and people who are unemployed, I don't think that really hurts the website because people aren't defined of their social status. And I think that if you look at life in that manner, then, again, we already know you're a judgmental guy. We don't need to go into that, but, there are exceptions to the rule, and just to say that people who are unemployed are horrible people, or people who have self-esteem are horrible people, that's kind of harsh, and, you kind of sound like a Ronald Reagan saying, chronically unemployed people. God damn, that was not even close to Reagan, but my point is that 4chan isn't even full of low self-esteem people, and even if it was, who cares? And it's really nice that you have Harvard statistics to back up your shit.
Now, the problem with having a bunch of people who hate themselves all congregating en masse with no rules should be obvious. It's like any other echo chamber where the beliefs that you share in common are only going to grow more pronounced and extreme as you validate each other and fill each other's heads with ideas. I don't know if this is still a thing. Who knows? I'm sure stuff like this probably still goes on every day, but there used to be these quote-unquote Ronery threads on A and JP where people would all basically gather around and commiserate about how miserable and alone they were, and pretty much just wallow in this giant circle jerk of self-pity. There's also the whole, like, that feel with no girlfriend type stuff, which I mainly saw on V, which was, that was basically the same thing. Like, oh, boo-hoo, woe is us, we're so alone. Also, women are whores.
Alright, first of all, before I even get into this, let me just say that this guy's complaining about certain posts, certain submissions, and let me just say, you can get off those posts, get off those submissions, go to a different webpage, go to a different area of the website. You don't have to sit there and watch it. It's like people complain about TV shows. I know a lot of TV shows I don't like, and a lot of times in conversation I'll complain about it, but I don't sit there and watch the TV show knowing I don't like it, and then at the end say, wow, this TV show sucked. I'm sure this guy got off those threads, and I'm sure this guy didn't even bother to look at them, so I don't even know why he's even bringing them up, other than the fact to promote his bullshit statistics and his bullshit argument, which is actually his opinion, that most people on 4chan have low self-esteem and they're sad all the time. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being sad, and there's nothing wrong with commiserating with other people. Sometimes one of the best feelings is just being sad with someone else. I mean, when you have a funeral and there's someone who died and everyone's around you sad, there's a certain comfort that everyone's sad around you and that you're letting your, sadness out, and you're all just commiserating with each other. It's kind of like that old saying, misery loves company. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and in conversations, it's usually regular to bitch and moan about things that happen to you. Not a lot of conversations are super fun when all you say is your achievements in life. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have heard that Louis C.K. bit, and I know I sound like a douchebag for quoting a comedian, but I don't give a fuck, where he says that people who talk about their personal achievements and success are just boring fucks, and that you just want to be miserable. You want to be around people who are miserable. And it's fun in a weird way to just be sad with other people and to bitch and moan. I love bitching and moaning. There's nothing better than complaining. I hate people who don't complain. Let that shit out. Something bothers you, let it out. So for this guy to say that it's absolutely debaucherous to have people complaining and have people bitching and moaning, I guess you don't live in the regular world where conversation usually revolves around complaining about something or venting about something. And I think that you're really, really shaping your argument to fit the conclusion that you've already completed. You basically, when you took that pen and pad and you made your essay, you wrote the conclusion and then you went back up to the top and said, what can I say to support this conclusion? So, furthermore, all I gotta say is you're full of shit. So, on to the next worship point.
And in that same wheelhouse, you've also probably noticed that the overall atmosphere on 4chan often tends to be pretty hostile and cynical. Like, oh, hey guys, just wanted to know, I was wondering, how about this thing? You know what the response to that thread's gonna be? It's shit. It's shit. Shit. Shit, shit, shit. This is shit. That's shit. You're shit. I'm a shit. He's a shit. She's a shit. We're all shit. Hey. Which, that doesn't exactly help things either. If you have bad self-esteem and you don't trust your own judgment and you have a hard time opening up to people and you hang out with people who will tell you to put your head in the microwave for using Windows Media Player instead of MPC, it's probably going to make you even more withdrawn and insecure. And more generally, hanging around in a community where that kind of thing is the norm is going to influence your personality and make you, as an individual, a more bitter and judgmental person. And now you might say, oh, that's not true. I'm not like that. It's just a website. I'm me. I am separate from that. But that's just not true. Really, you should ask yourself, would I be the same person today if I had never found 4chan? It's not possible to let your brain marinate in this, like, piss mist of hostility and bad attitudes for hours and hours and not have it influence you on some level.
Holy shit. Not only is this guy's word the truth, But apparently this guy's the fun police. He's not only the fun police, he's an extreme version of the politically correct police. Are you serious? This guy really thinks that people with low self-esteem are gonna make a post on the internet and just be hurt, just be completely, personally taken aback when people disagree. First of all, let me just say, people on 4chan, they're usually pretty cynical on most boards, and I think that's fine, and I think that's hilarious. I mean, you've never heard of comedy? Do you not know of just, you know, and the thing is, it's cynical on such a stupid level, because what he didn't mention is, sometimes you go to a certain board and say, this is my favorite video game, Super Mario Brothers, and then someone else says, Super Mario Brothers sucks, it's all about Doom. Am I really going to go in the corner and cry because someone said Super Mario Brothers suck? You do that all the time. That's a form of just joking around. That's a form of just conversating. I mean, how can you... Are you really offended at someone's trivial opinion of a video game? It's not like the dude created the game, put his life into the game, and then someone crapped on it and then completely decommissioned him from ever playing the game. I can't believe that he actually went to that level. He's probably the type of guy, when he's out with his friends and someone's like, yo, I love Coca-Cola so much. And then another guy goes, nah, I like Pepsi. And then he just gets up, he's like, guys, just stop. Stop the violence. We can work this out together. We don't have to resort to arguing. I can't believe he actually included this. This is possibly one of the dumbest, most inane points I've ever heard in my life. It's literally retarded. I mean, it's not figuratively. It's literally retarded. Fucking on to the next point.
4chan just tends to be very addictive and time-consuming. I remember a lot of people would say that they spent all of their free time on there, or they'd wake up and be on there until they went to bed. People jokingly refer to their computers as 4chan machines. 4chan eats up your time and cuts into your productivity and sort of just puts hurdles between you and the things that you want to get done. I mean, I've been there where I'd have something that I was actually in the process of working on, and then all of a sudden be like, what the fuck, why am I on 4chan? Because I had actually zoned out and clicked on the bookmark without even being aware of what I was doing. And it's going to be harder for you, not just to do well in school or get a job or whatever, when you have this addiction, this albatross hanging over you. It's not just going to be harder to do well in terms of responsibilities, but also just to do the things that you actually enjoy doing. On A, people used to talk about how they had to motivate themselves to get off 4chan to watch anime. They had to motivate themselves to watch anime. They probably spent 10 times as much time arguing and insulting each other on A than they ever did actually watching anime. And then because this is happening, that you're less able to do stuff, it's going to harm your self-esteem even more and just keep feeding into this whole cycle of bullshit.
You know what? I like to think of myself as an honest person, and this is one of the points that I just got to give into. I think that this guy's right. I think that 4chan is very addictive, and that I have to be honest myself and say that I'm an addict, and that not only to 4chan, but also to food. I mean, I'm a morbidly obese person, and sometimes I'll be writing something, and all of a sudden I see a chicken leg in my hand, and then I look at it, and there's a bite mark, and I'm chewing, and I have food in my mouth, and I don't even realize I'm eating. Oh my God, is this nigga serious? Okay, first of all, this is like bullshit 101. This is the type of thing that you'll hear in Dr. Phil about, you know, kids are playing video games too much. They say that the average child spends 16 hours on an Xbox 360. And then they go to the crowd, and the crowd goes, oh my God, our children. Are you fucking kidding me? This nigga said sometimes I'll just be working on a project and I'll click 4chan. I don't even know why. It's because you wanted to go to 4chan, motherfucker. Okay? And another thing is, this guy's saying that 4chan is just a force of evil. It's horrible. But just so you know, 4chan has multiple boards, multiple subdivisions. There's ones about television where you can go watch TV. There's ones about art. You can look at art. They have one about literature, which I've checked out, and they actually have some pretty good book suggestions and actually has pretty good discussion about books. So anything that has anything to do with books is not a bad thing, okay? And I really think this guy, he is just taking things to the umpteenth level, and he's trying to take a hammer and nail in the coffin, but there's no coffin to hammer anything into, and he doesn't realize what he's even talking about. It's complete and utter bullshit to say that 4chan is completely a force of evil. And another thing is, people who have addictive personalities, you have an addictive personality and you need to get over it. And people who are unmotivated, you need to get over it. 4chan isn't doing anything. There's TV to watch. And by the way, let me just say, I love the fact this guy, I had to leave 4chan. I had to go to Tumblr and look at Japanese women. Japanese cartoon women. Really, nigga? Like, you started off the video saying, I love going to Tumblr, looking at pictures of anime girls, but I had to leave 4chan because it was just too unproductive. If people want to get their dose of evil, they get it from wherever they want. And you're a hypocrite, really, because, you know, your claim to fame, from what I've seen so far, is that you love anime, and that's like your big deal, and somehow that's a hobby, even though I don't think that's a hobby. You're just sitting on your ass watching a movie or whatever. And again, I think now we've come to the conclusion that you're a hypocrite. You think what you say is fact, and you're a judgmental prick. So really, just more and more things to add to the personality that is you. So on to the next thing. Time to learn something new.
Now, if the answer is yes, like, oh yeah, I love all the stupid memes and reaction images and petty bickering over stupid bullshit for hours and hours, well, it's like if every day you come home and you wake up and go, oh boy, oh goody, I can't wait to see what's happening on 4chan today. If that sounds like you, then feel free to disregard this entire video. But I'm gonna guess, for most people over the age of 16 or 17, the answer is probably gonna be, nah, not really, or even a firm no. And if that is the case, what are you doing? You're gonna die. You're gonna be around for another 60 or 70 years at best, and then you're gonna be dead forever. Don't waste one more fucking second on this thing that accomplishes nothing and doesn't even make you happy.
Really? Do I even need to say anything? You should already know what's coming out of my mouth. I mean, I feel like a broken record. Again, this guy's a self-important ass. Again, this guy's a self-righteous ass. Again, this guy thinks his opinion is fact. And again, this guy's coming off as a douche. Now, let me just say that this guy, throughout this whole video he's made, he's been misrepresenting 4chan. Kind of been a liar, because all he's been talking about is the video game board and the anime board, aka the Japanese cartoon board, aka probably one of the worst boards I've ever been to, and I only went there by accident. I swear to God, it wasn't intentional. But 4chan has so many different things. I mean, I just got done looking at a thread about comedians, and I found a lot of new comics that I like. I mean, I was just looking at a Corey Holcomb special, and I had a lot of laughs, and I had a good time looking at that. It's not purely argumentative. It's not purely conversational. There's a lot of different things that you can interact with. There's a lot of different things. You choose. You can go and make your own thread. You want to talk about comedians? Make your own thread. You want to talk about books? Make your own thread. You want to talk about watches? Make your own thread. Just bought a new phone? Want to see people's opinion? Make a new thread. You can control the content that's on the website. I don't understand why this guy is so bent and hurt to say that there's nothing but this one thing. And I mean, really, I really am a broken record where he's just a self-righteous pompous ass. And let me just say, that little bit where you're gonna die. You're gonna fucking die. One day you're gonna wake up and you're just not gonna be there. This guy sounds like a hack Bill Hicks. This guy just sounds like he watched some existential video on YouTube and he just soaked it all up, ate it, and then regurgitated it in his video. And that is such a, that's neither here nor there. That does not help your argument. If anything, it weakens your argument because you're going bouncing off the walls talking about death, mortality, so on and so forth. I mean, really, man, you're just making me sick with how much of a corny guy you are. So let's finish this up now.
Anyway, that's my piece. Bit heavy-handed, I guess. But I mean, really, even if you're like how I was, if you're like most people, probably, I hope anyway, where 4chan isn't this like huge part of your life and it's just a thing that you do to waste time, you lose nothing by giving it up. More generally, I think what this is about is just sort of being aware of habits and things in your life and sort of periodically asking yourself, what is this accomplishing? What is this doing for me? And if your answer is nothing, you got to cut that thing out. And I just want to restate, by accomplishing, I don't mean you have to go around winning Nobel Prizes and pulling cats out of trees and shit. If you like to play video games, and video games are fun for you and they have a positive role to play in your life, then do it. Play video games. If you want to hammer a nail through your fist, then do that. Side note, don't do that. It just seems like people spend so much time and energy on things that serve no purpose and that they don't even really like. And it's just like, why? You don't have to do that. You don't deserve to do that. So, fucking don't. It's that simple. See ya, Space Cowboy.
Ooh, it's finally over. I gotta tell you, I feel mentally drained. I feel like I gotta take a long-ass nap, try to hibernate, try to recover the lost energy. I mean, I started this off just because this guy pissed me off because he's so self-centered, so self-righteous, so self-important. And the high of being upset kind of faded, and it just kind of converted into just why. I feel melancholy. I don't even know why I even bothered listening to this horse shit, because this guy, his whole argument revolves around his opinion, and his opinion is portrayed as a fact when it isn't. It's not a fact. What he's saying is entirely an opinion, and I'd say it's a pretty wonky opinion. I mean, you can have opinions about anything, and they could be right, they could be wrong. Usually opinions are in the gray area where it's not necessarily right or wrong, but this guy bases his opinion entirely off of his own experience. He basically says that the entire user base of a website is people that are degenerate, social rejects, so on and so forth, when that's not true. He says that the entire platform is just used for arguments and nothing else. I mean, that's not true. There's so many funny things, so many interesting things, a lot of things I find on 4chan, and I think it's a cool website. I use it regularly, and I think to say that it's horrible and everyone should leave it kind of shows what type of a person you are. You're the type of guy who's probably easily offended. You're probably really easily bothered. I mean, the whole time I listened to your video, all I could think of is just women on The View being offended at the most trivial comments. I mean, you're probably the reason why Don Imus lost his job. You're probably the reason why a lot of people have lost their jobs that are just entertainers trying to just say things, say their opinion, and you're just going around. I mean, I almost had to jump out my window when you started talking about how people with self-esteem post something and someone says it's shit, and then they feel worse. I mean, talk about sensationalizing something. Talk about over-exaggerating something. I mean, really, dude, you just took something and just elevated it. You exponentially created bullshit and let it grow and brew. And, I already took my time out to say why you're full of shit and why your opinion's full of shit and why your opinion isn't a fact. And I just gotta say, man, as a person, I'm not really liking you at the moment. I mean, first of all, the first thing I gotta say, man, that filter you put on your voice bothers me, because I listen to radio, and I've listened to a lot of hack radio shows where they have, a wacky voice for the morning, or they have a very serious voice, or they filter it. Like you did. You filtered your voice to come off as a cool dude, an edgy guy. And, I mean, you're really, what you're fighting against is what you are. I mean, if you want to go to 4chan, see shitty memes, and see everyone be assholes, and yeah, at the end of your videos, well, that's it. See you later, Space Cowboys. Like, really, dude? Really? I mean, I would really love it if from a month from now you just put up a video saying, haha, I trolled you, I'd be glad, man. I'd be glad to get got, but I think you're serious. I think you're for real. And I also think that You're the problem with America, and we need more. What happened to good old men? What happened to the old silent, strong type? The type that didn't complain. The type that didn't have... All right, I don't know It was Tony Soprano, okay? I don't know the quote entirely. But, you know what? That's pretty much it. I already did my time picking apart the horse shit that was your argument or opinion or fact, whatever you want to call it. And probably this time tomorrow I won't even remember I watched this shit. So, thanks.